Hi, and thank you very much for joining me today to discuss an issue that is on a whole lot of people's minds. In the last few days, there has been a lot of information swirling around regarding President Trump, his relationship with Russia, the firing of FBI Director James Comey, allegations of obstruction of justice, the revealing of classified information, etc., etc. I would like to take a moment to try to put all of this into a broad context and tell you where I'm coming from. Let me begin by going back to the rather strange attitude that candidate Donald Trump had with regard to the autocratic president of Russia, Vladimir Putin. Clearly, we all want a positive relationship with Russia. We don't want another Cold War. Ultimately, we want to find a way to work together on areas of common interest. But what I will never be able to understand is why during the campaign, Donald Trump, a candidate for president of the United States, would time and time again praise a leader who has been actively working to undermine democracy in Russia, who put Russia under the control of a small group of oligarchs, and who has jailed journalists and political activists in Russia. I'm not quite sure why Trump would have been saying positive things about a man who has for years been trying to weaken NATO, weaken the European Union, weaken Western alliances, and who has been a major supporter of the regime of Syrian dictator Bashar Assad, a man who has murdered hundreds of thousands of his own people in Syria's devastating civil war. No one now denies that Russia intervened in our 2016 elections in a heavy-duty way, with a range of measures, with the clear goals of undermining America's faith in our democracy and helping to elect Donald Trump as our president. I think there's no longer a debate about that issue. Russia used similar measures to intervene in the recent French elections, and by the way, there is evidence that they plan to continue this effort in America's 2018 elections. The major issue now being investigated by both the Senate and House Intelligence Committee is whether the Trump campaign colluded with Russia's attempt to influence our elections. This is an enormously important issue that requires a thorough, independent, nonpartisan investigation. We need to answer the question, what was the nature of the Trump campaign's relationship to Russia? If the Trump campaign actively colluded with the Russians, and let me make clear that I am using the word if, that would be a very serious crime. On May 9th, as you know, in the midst of the FBI's investigation into these issues, President Trump fired James Comey, the FBI director who was leading that investigation. In other words, in the midst of an investigation, he fired the guy who was leading the investigation to determine whether or not there was collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia. He then sent his representatives out to tell a story as to why Comey was fired, a story which turned out not to be true. The official explanation given by the White House was that Trump fired Comey on the recommendation of the Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein and Attorney General Jeff Sessions, because they believed that Comey was doing an inadequate job and had mishandled the Hillary Clinton situation, something that Trump praised at the time. Then 2 days later, in an interview with NBC, Trump admitted that he was going to fire Comey in any case, regardless of any recommendations. Trump, in a tweet, also implied that he may have taped conversations with Comey after asking him, we are told, for Comey's personal loyalty. There is a reason why an FBI director has a 10-year term. The reason is to protect the independence and integrity of the FBI, whose director's term would go beyond any one president and thus less susceptible to political influence. The FBI director must be loyal to the law and to the American people and not simply function as a political appointee. And then, interestingly, the day after Trump fired Comey, Trump met with the Russian foreign minister and ambassador in the Oval Office at the White House. Amazingly, American media were not allowed into the room, only Russian media. On May 15th, the Washington Post wrote that during that meeting, Trump revealed very sensitive information to the Russians regarding terrorist plots against us. Trump's action in revealing this information to officials of a government whose policies are very much at odds with our own was extremely reckless and irresponsible. In a very dangerous world, the United States relies to a significant degree on intelligence sharing. Under strict rules of secrecy, we share information with our allies about threats to their safety, and they share information that they have gathered about possible attacks against the United States. This type of information sharing is the cornerstone of our efforts to track and destroy terrorist groups like ISIS and Al-Qaeda and to protect innocent people in our country and around the world. What Trump did in revealing classified information to the Russians not only jeopardized a relationship with a key intelligence source in the Middle East, but has now shaken the confidence of allies around the world who will be much more cautious about sharing intelligence with us in the future. This will make the United States of America less safe. And we just learned on Tuesday that according to a memo written by James Comey, Trump pushed Comey to end the FBI investigation into former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn's relationship with Russia. If true, this is, to my mind, the definition of an attempted obstruction of justice. So that is where we are. A lot of stuff is unswirling right now. And this is where I think we have got to go. We need a special prosecutor. We need a special prosecutor who will pursue the facts wherever they may go. And we need to do this, most importantly, in a bipartisan manner. The Democrats, in my view, cannot take political advantage of this moment, and the Republicans cannot simply defend the president. For the sake of this country, we need to come together and pursue the information and the facts in a nonpartisan way and let it lead us to wherever it might go. Furthermore, we need any recordings at the White House of meetings with Comey to be made public. The President implied there were tapes. I have no idea whether that's true or not, but if in fact recordings were made, they should be made public. Further, we need a new FBI director who must be independent, who must function on behalf of the American people and not any political party. And my own view is, to guarantee that that happens, we should go back to the 60-vote rule and get 60 votes for any new FBI director, which would indicate and make certain that it is nonpartisan. Because if the vote for a new FBI director comes out to be 52 to 48, with Republicans winning, I think all over this country, people will perceive that individual as a political appointee, not an independent man or woman who is there to best serve the American people. Furthermore, we need access to the memos that may have taken place in terms of the conversations between Trump and Comey. We also need the former FBI Director Comey to testify before the United States Congress. Bottom line is, we need bipartisanship. We need to make sure that the American people have faith in this process. We need to go where the facts will take us. This is an important moment, a very important moment. And we as a nation need to make sure that this entire process is done with integrity. And I intend to play an important role in that process. Thank you very much for your attention. Take care. Hi, and thank you very much for joining me today to discuss an issue that is on a whole lot of people's minds. In the last few days, there has been a lot of information swirling around regarding President Trump, his relationship with Russia, the firing of FBI Director James Comey, allegations of obstruction of justice, the revealing of classified information, etc., etc. I would like to take a moment to try to put all of this into a broad context and tell you where I'm coming from. Let me begin by going back to the rather strange attitude that candidate Donald Trump had with regard to the autocratic president